Well, I'd like to share with you my enthusiasm for the Gospel of Thomas. And what I'll first do is I'll set it in its time so you understand why the Gospel of Thomas is important. Then I will take 4 themes and I will tell you the themes now. It is effort versus grace, self-knowledge, detachment, and integration and oneness. Now, having said that, you will already believe that the Gospel of Thomas is very relevant to our time. These themes are the themes that are going round now for people who are interested in spiritual growth. So let me start with telling you what the Gospel of Thomas is like. What is it? Well, when you open the book, the first thing that strikes you is it's not at all like the other Gospels. What is this? These are just sayings, 114 sayings. There is no narrative like in the Synoptic Gospels, no Annunciation, no birth, no crucifixion, no resurrection, none of that. Because the people were assumed to know that. And what it actually is in these 114 sayings is the actual teaching of Jesus as it was current at his time. You have to remember that the time of Jesus was a time of an oral culture, predominantly. People could write and could read, but not all of them. It was mainly oral. So if Jesus taught, people would remember the essence of his talk in sayings, and the sayings would be spread around. And so the Gospel of Thomas is a compilation of sayings we can be very sure Jesus actually said, because the memory of people in earlier times compared to our memory is quite different. They didn't have Google to quickly check it. They had it all in their mind. So there are these sayings, we call them wisdom sayings, which is purely the teaching. Now, I said they're compiled. They were very quickly compiled by possibly disciples of Thomas. Everything we say about these early days, you will very soon realize if you look at research, is probably, possibly, we don't know. But there is a version of the Gospel of Thomas in the Syriac language already by about 50 AD, or Common Era, which is a lot earlier than the Synoptic Gospels. Some people, and again this is some researchers say it, others say no, you're wrong. Some say it may well be this mysterious gospel called Q, for the German word Quelle, source, because 50 sayings are also in the Synoptic Gospels. So was it a source that the other disciples used? I leave that to you. But it's one of the earliest records we have of the teaching of Jesus. And Jesus didn't write anything down, you know that. He taught. The teaching was more important. Whenever you hear Jesus teaching, it's a question or a statement which makes you think. So that's what these wisdom sayings are. They're statements which imply a question, which is meant to make you think and is meant, in fact, to cause a transformation of consciousness. Why is it not in the New Testament? Why aren't there 5 Gospels? Well, if I told you that story, you wouldn't hear anything else about the themes. So I know that your course book, Journey to the Heart, has a very good chapter on that, and I won't tell you who it was written by. So enjoy that if you are interested more in the background. But what I'd like to concentrate now on is the themes of Jesus's teaching. Every saying starts with Jesus said, and then comes the saying. So the first theme, which is very much always a current theme, is it all effort or is it all grace? What is it? Does it matter what we do, or is it a free gift anyway? So effort versus grace. I'd like to read you the first saying. They call them, often the researchers call them logions. So let me be all posh and call it a logion. Logion 1, Jesus said, whoever discovers the interpretations of these sayings will not taste death. Now that's a saying you have to think about. Immediately up comes the question, what on earth does he mean by that? It challenges us to find out the meaning for ourselves and to find out the true interpretation. I can't tell you that. That would be my interpretation. But the true interpretation is to really listen attentively, deeply, read it with attention. And the idea is always in the whole early Christianity is you take then that reading and then you go into contemplative prayer. And it's in the silence of contemplative prayer that the answer comes. And that's the beauty. So it is a mixture between you having to pay attention, that's your effort, and to pray. And if you do that, then there is the grace, the gift of insight. And that insight then helps you to grow spiritually. So it is very much a mixture of the two. Personal responsibility. Listen again. Whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death. That puts the mantle of responsibility very much on our shoulders. Yeah? But then to understand it, we have to let go of our own will, our own thoughts, our own ideas. And we listen. We listen to the still, small voice of calm that gives us the intuitive answer, the answer of the heart, not of the mind. And just as is said with the early Christians, in reading, in listening to Jesus, you are doing that attentively and intuitively. You're actually in the presence of Christ. That was very much the conviction of the early Christians, that this deep, attentive reading and listening would bring you into the divine presence. And there you would know everything. So it is a combination of personal responsibility and the grace inherent in Jesus' presence in our heart and in his teaching. And we can. He tells us this is what you have to do. And then in Logion 70, he tells you can. He said, if you bring forth what is within you, what you have will save you. So there is a very clear promise that it's there. You've just got to be silent enough to discover it. You don't earn it. You don't get it as a prize. You've just got to be silent enough to realize the answer is within you. And the answer comes from the Spirit of Christ that is within our heart. This emphasis on the divine spark within all of us is a dogma of the early church. Things change, and I won't get into that, otherwise I'll go on to my soapbox. But in the early church, the church fathers were absolutely one in their thought that the spark of the divine is within us. It is an apostolic doctrine of the early church, and because this divine spark, that was a nice Spoonerism, divine spark is within us, we can discover the meaning and the teaching we need to hear to transform into wholeness, into a true human being. So I hope I've convinced you that it is effort and grace. Now the second theme is this theme of self-knowledge. Now the moment I say that, you will already say, that is what I've heard from many modern teachers. So I don't have to argue much about the Gospel of Thomas being relevant these days. So it's essential, self-knowledge. Remembering, and self-knowledge doesn't mean just understanding how your surface self ticks. That too. But it means knowing who you truly are. That you are more than you think you are. And it is difficult. Yeah? We are so focused on our surface. It's incredibly difficult. Can I read another Logion for you? Jesus said, I took my stand in the midst of the world, and in the flesh I appeared to them. I found them all drunk. I did not find any of them thirsty. My soul ached for the children of humanity, because they're blind in their hearts and do not see. And I find that a very moving saying, where Jesus said, my soul ached for the children of humanity. So, although I said I will not interpret a little bit of my personal feeling here, immediately that speaks to me that we need to let go of our habitual ways of behaving. Yeah, our ways of which our material being dictates. Yeah, we need to survive. So we have means of doing so, and we need those. There's nothing wrong with those. But we can get so obsessed with our survival needs and our hope that the material world will meet all those needs, that we forget that there is more. We become drunk and blind. It's quite, it's something to take on board, isn't it, when you start that you are drunk and blind. Quite strong way of saying, especially for someone who has never drunk alcohol in her life. But still I'm drunk. And do remember, this gospel and what he is saying here, he's not saying get rid of that part of yourself that is drunk and blind. Not at all. It is transformation. Transformation. See that there is more than you think there is. These survival needs, especially the ones which are not met, we call unmet, and which is a product of our upbringing, our environment. These aren't the only ones. They cannot be satisfied in the material world. They will be satisfied when we actually touch who we are, when we wake up, as he said very clearly. And Jesus challenges us to persevere. He says, Jesus said, let one who seeks not stop seeking until one finds. And when one finds, one will be troubled. And when one is troubled, one will marvel and rule over all. That is quite something, isn't it? Because the moment you realize that reality you have accepted as the only reality is actually not the only one, and moreover shaped by our needs, our desires, our thoughts, our images, when we realize that, that is troubling. We don't really accept it at first at all. But if we persevere on this path of reaching the silence which comes after the reading, when we reach that, then we can part the veil of the illusion of this surface reality, and we become aware of the true nature of reality. And then there is no need to have needs met. They are met. We realize in our total being we have all we need. And then there is a sense of wonder. And then there is a sense of hooray. Third topic I'd like to talk about shortly is detachment. You can see the link, can't you? You have to detach from your thought patterns before you can leave your drunkenness and your blindness behind. And here Jesus uses a saying which is really quite strong. He says, whoever has come to know the world has discovered a carcass. And whoever has discovered a carcass, of that person, the world is not worthy. Now, I've got to help you a little bit there. The saying of that person, the world is not worthy, is a Jewish saying used to praise someone. That's the utmost, ultimate praise you can give someone, that he is not, the world is not worthy of you. And a carcass, again, may seem a harsh term, but do remember that Jesus was also a Jewish orator. And Jewish oratory always uses exaggeration to make a point. Yeah? So to get into this divine presence which is within us, to become aware of that, yeah, we need to transcend these desires, these thoughts and images. We need to see that that is not going to give us a lasting sense of security. We and the world are impermanent. All passes away. Hence it is a carcass. Elsewhere, Jesus says, be passers-by. Yeah? Don't cling. Don't attach to anything. It's beautiful. The world is beautiful. There's no doubt. That's in the Gospel of Thomas as well, about creation. Lift up the stone, and I am there. I'm paraphrasing. So the divine is in the world, and therefore everything of the world is beautiful. But don't cling. Don't want to own and be attached to it. And is this a selfish route we take? Well, not according to the Gospel of Thomas. In Logion 24, he says, there is a light within a person of light, and it shines on the whole world. So whatever you do for others too. Yeah, when we remember who we truly are, we help the rest of humanity by the way we behave, by the way we interact, by the way we follow the ultimate commandment of love. And the last one is integration and oneness. And this is quite clear from what I've said. You have to not let go of the surface self, but you have to transcend and combine the rest of your being, your divine spiritual being, and your surface being. And Jesus said to them, when you make the two into one, when you make the inner like the outer, and the outer like the inner, and the upper like the lower, when you make male and female into a single one, then you will enter the kingdom. Now I leave you to find out the true meaning of that phrase for yourself. So all of us have the potential to become whole, to become one, connected with others and with creation. And creation in Thomas is good. Yes, I already said. He said, I'm the light that is over all things. I am all. From me all has come forth, and to me all has reached. Split the wood, and I am there. Lift up the stone, and you will find me there. Well, I think you will completely agree with me that these 4 sayings are very current even now. And I just want to finish with what a Zen teacher said in America. He was called Richard Baker, and he's a proper Roshi. And he tells about his whole journey, that he went from Boston to Kyoto, where he studied. He entered a Buddhist monastery and became a disciple of a Zen master, Sunryo Suzuki Roshi. But, he laughed, had I known the Gospel of Thomas, I wouldn't have had to become a Buddhist. Thank you.